Okay, 30, including me, is 30. 50% is joined. Okay, our introduction class is over, and the next engineers and biology relevance and importance over, and classifications also will begins, I think. Yeah, it's a broad classification. The great scientist of the Linnaeus is identified. 7 levels of taxonomy. He states based on the similarities between the organisms. Often some major steps, their food wise, their cell point of view. It's in a unicellular or multicellular, their reproduction way. All the things, definitely whatever the creature, whatever the animal or plant, any microorganism is definitely set into that particular on taxonomy. This taxonomy satisfies majorly is in 3 domains, and domains to kingdoms he classifies. Definitely the creature can separate into that kingdom. What is these 7 levels of classification system? Yeah, the first one is domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. These are the 7 levels of the systematic way of classification. The scientist Linnaeus is identified. Its scientific name and either a botanical name is through of genus and species is takes place in the name. This is the major way of the fundamental way of classification he follows. It is a fully scientific approach, the universal classification. The domain, now this domain is again classified as in a 3-way. One is archaea and another one is bacteria and eukarya. These are the 3 major domains in the taxonomic classification in living organisms. That living organisms is in a microorganisms or multicellular organisms or whatever. Yeah, this domains is divided into kingdoms. The majorly 6 kingdoms. This archaea domain is in archaeobacteria, and the bacteria domain is in eubacteria. Eukarya domain is in protista, fungi, in the plant and animal. This is the 3 major. I think up to here on that day we are discussed. I think there is 6 broad kingdoms. What we discussed in the before slide. Every living thing that we know it's fitted to this particular 6 kingdoms. Undoubtedly, it's definitely it fits into this particular 6 kingdoms. It belongs to one kingdom. Each level gets to more the specific as where organisms is fitted to any one of the group is definitely the next these kingdoms. Yeah, but these 6 kingdoms follows the 3 major factors. Either it's in a cell type, cell number, or feeding type. These 3 factors, major factors wise, these 3 kingdoms is classified. Is it visible? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir, visible.
Visible, okay. The three factors, the cell type is in a prokaryotic or eukaryotic, or in cell numbers wise is in a multicellular or unicellular way of the cell number. The feeding type is in a self-made autotrophs or heterotrophs is dependers. These three major components wise, this again the six kingdoms is classified. Yeah, you see here it is the cell type. The prokaryotics and eukaryotics is in presence and absence of cell structures such as the nucleus and mitochondria or in a cell wall wise it's classifies. One is prokaryotic one and another one is eukaryotic one. Major difference is nucleus. One is absence of nucleus, the prokaryotics is absence and eukaryotics as presence of the nucleus. Here, the prokaryotics, the best example is bacteria. It do not have what? It's a nucleus, it does not have. The kingdom is its new bacteria, it's a prokaryotic, it belongs. The bacteria is unicellular. The structure is unicellular. So total all the functions is in this particular cell only. Is structured by the organelles has its a cell wall. Cell wall contains the organelles through this one. It moves towards. Yeah, the type of prokaryotic cell is it's in cell wall, the cell membrane, or direct DNA non-nucleus. This DNA containing of the chromosomes, the pairs of chromosomes, it's individual. And next ribosomes and cytoplasm also, but it's no nucleus and a nucleolus. Nucleus membrane also it's not is its absence. But eukaryotic seeds have nucleus. Yeah, yes, membrane with membrane, the nucleus. Here you see it's in a eukaryotic cell. It's have also same containing of the cell wall and cell membrane, but here it's a nucleus containing of the DNA containing the chromosomes, the pairs of chromosomes, and the rest of nucleus, the rest of cell constituents. Means there is a mitochondria, cell membrane, Golgi bodies, ribosomes, cytoplasm, and everything. Yeah, and the next the criteria. The first criteria is it's in nucleus point of view. The second criteria, the kingdom is the base point is cell number wise. The unicellular or multicellular. The single cell is its all the functions is just happened through that particular single cell only. The best examples is protozoans, bacteria, and some algal species. These belongs to, it comes under unicellular. Some of the freshwater algae, some marine algae is belongs to unicellular and multicellular is many celled organisms each and every the cell and cell constituents is an individual the functionality is specified in a different shade. We can the best example here you see the multicellular is in a, not it's in a big one is just a multicellular not as it means even though the small ant is also multicellular but here it's a unicellular, is a bacteria is unicellular. The small ant is also multicellular. Big elephant, blue whale, human, dog, rat, rabbit, is whatnot. And a small plants also. Even smallest plants also is multicellular. Yeah, here it is. The best example of the unicellular is bacteria. The next criteria, kingdom classification point of view, this is it prepares its own food, is it a producer or is it an autotroph through photosynthesis? The mechanism of photosynthesis in presence of sunlight, carbon dioxide, and the water available is down to that preparation of the food in a form of carbohydrates, as in a supplies of ATPs, adenosine triphosphates, the energetic substance is it liberates its own food it prepares. for growth. But at the same time, the heterotrophs or consumers, on the other hand, it's called as consumers. Is it a primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers? That means it directly depends on these producers. Those are the primary consumers. This primary consumers, the secondary consumers depends on primary consumers. Once the primary consumers consumes, the growth towards base depends on producers. Yep. Secondary consumers depends on primary consumers. Tertiary consumers are peak. These are the last one. Yeah, these are all, this one is depends on secondary consumers. The heterotrophs also again classifies as herbivores and carnivores. Herbivores is totally vegetarians. Majority of the primary consumers are herbivores. The secondary consumers onwards are all carnivores. The topmost consumers are definitely it's carnivores. Yeah, it must eat to other organisms to survive too, and also it includes the decomposers. Also, it's decomposing substances, deadly things, dead substances. Also, those also eat to the dead matters. The saprophytes, those are called as saprophytes. The next slides we can identify to this one. Which one is comes under the saprophytes? You listen carefully all these words. Other than that, the multiple choice questions or one word answer questions, you're not able to answer to this one. Or else, once I send these PPTs, you may read thoroughly. You may be, it's possible. The first thing is you listen carefully, then only. These are all classifications. The biology is very nearest sounds. Yeah. Here, the kingdom. The kingdom is in a 6 kingdoms. The 3 domains is in 6 kingdoms. In the 6 kingdoms is 2 is prokaryotics and 4 is eukaryotics. All eukarya. The domain eukarya is belongs to eukaryotics. Yeah. Archaea and bacteria is prokaryotics. The domain archaea and bacteria is comes under prokaryotics. Okay. Now the domain archaea. The domain archaea. In this domain archaea, the first foremost one is in the protista, the fungi, plants, and animals. Yeah. Fungi, protista, plants, and animals. The domain archaea. The kingdom is archaeobacteria. This archaeobacteria it comes under prokaryotics, and the bacteria, eubacteria, is the best example of the bacteria is prokaryotics. The first domain of the archaea is the kingdom archaeobacteria. It's a prokaryotic. Is it unicellular? Is an autotrophs? Is self-made? The cell wall and it's produced asexual reproduction. It's no way of male and female. It's asexual. They in the budding or in the splitting, whatever the way. But the next generations can generate. It's ancient bacteria. It's living very harsh environment, of course, very drought environments. It's in an extraordinary way of the species extemporament. Archaea, archaea domain containing of the oldest bacteria, the ancient bacteria. The next domain is bacteria. There's a lot of bacteria. Someone is helpful bacteria, someone is harmful. The bacteria, the kingdom is its eubacteria, is prokaryotics, is made up of one cell. The bacteria is an autotroph, someone is heterotroph, someone is depends. The human, the bacteria, the human intestines containing of the bacteria is dependents. Is the host containing of the food material it consumes, this bacterial load is increases. This is the human body containing bacteria. So that is the reason why someone is an autotroph, someone is heterotroph. So the bacteria has a cell wall and produce asexually the reproduction. It is in eubacteria that is the most most people are talking about when they say the bacteria because of the even more the natural conditions. Yeah, exactly. It's available. Yeah, of course, in all the animals, it's measure this particular the domain of the bacteria. This is the structure of the bacteria structure of unicellular and the prokaryotics. The next is it's in eukarya. The eukarya, the first one is protista, next is its algae, next is plants, and next is kingdom. In a eukarya, the first foremost one is the protista. The protista is in a three fascinated one. It's the animals like, it is fungus like, it's plants like. The protestas, it behaves. The protesta includes the widely ranging of the microbes. It's a majorly microscopic conditions, is including slime models, protozoa, and primitive algae like primitives algae like and protozoans like it behaves. So that is the reason why these are all are animals like, fungus like, and plants like protestas. Some are in a beneficial. Some protestas can cause diseases to human. It irritates, it's allergies and all these. It can human can face to this protesta. The next domain, yeah, this is this protesta. The domain of eukarya, the protesta kingdom. The protesta has a nucleus, most of the unicellular. Some protestas have in a cell wall, and some one do not have in a cell wall. And the protesta produce sexually also. Why? It's have in a three ways, either in a plants like, and sometimes in a fungus, and sometimes it's the plants like the structures is converted. So it is sexual reproduction. The protestas is in a nutrition through autotrophs. Some cases is in heterotrophs, but these are all maximum is in 100 microns in a size. These are all microscopic uh, things only, microscopic creatures only. The next eukarya domain is its after protista. The next one is the kingdom, is fungi kingdom. The fungi. This kingdom is a fungi. Fungi includes some of the most important of the organisms by breaking down of the dead organisms. Yeah, this is a material that is contains of the cycle of the nutrients to this ecosystem. It absorbs to this or is consumes the dead plants, dead plant bodies, dead leaves, dry leaves, and even the wet cloths also we can identify this fungi. The fungus, all fungus is eukaryotics, yeah. The unicellular and the multicellular fungus we can identify here. It is the yeast. The yeast leads to fossilization, the baking industry, the foods and beverages industry, yeah, the bakeries, the unicellular, the yeast. We may unicellular or multicellular. Once is also the multicellular. Some of the fungus, mushrooms, we know is edible. The fungus having a cell wall is produce sexual reproduction. It generates. This is the characteristics of the fungus. The fungus here it is, the fungi can be very helpful to delicious. It's very tasty mushrooms, very much delicious. Many antibacterial drugs is derived from the fungus. The great scientist Alexander Fleming, his penicillin he invented. Before the Louis Pasteur is a rabies vaccine. He identifies Alexander Fleming, the penicillin is a universal drug for any disease. Immediately the penicillin agents Alexander the Fleming, the great scientist. He extract this particular antibacterial substance of through fungus only. The fungus is also causes the number of plants and animals. Yeah, this is particularly in ringworm. It's a lot of itching and irritation, and very uneasiness it creates. the wet cloths or wet drawers or wet towels. We may wear it, or wet shirts or coats. Definitely the fungus can develop, and at the same time its effects on the limbs, the foldings, the limb foldings. Yeah, this definitely we can identify. Especially the fungus is very much nutritious, very much delicious one. All the fungus is in heterotrophs. Someone is hitting saprophytes, someone is parasites. Before I said the saprophytes is totally get their nutrients from the dead organisms. These are called as parasites, saprophytes, and the parasites is absorbs from the host, but eventually it kills the host. The finally this particular the parasitic fungus is it kills the host, but saprophytic fungus is slowly it's deteriorate, but it's get the food from the dead things. Okay, this is the special features of the the fungus, the fungi it is in eukaryote domain. It's a good kingdom, one of the good kingdom, much more positives and negatives also. The next kingdom is the plant kingdom. Yeah, plantae is nothing but of the plant kingdom. All the plants, the multicellular one, there are all eukaryotics, which cell walls it contains. They are in autotrophs, the self-made photosynthesis, sunlight through. Yeah, in the plants is they reproduce the sexual and asexual also. Some of the plants is in asexual. Someone is in a pollen grains, and at the same time it reaches to ovary. Then it is the nut, that particular the bud to nut to fruit. This is a sexual reproduction through one. It's possible. But some of the plants, their branches or leaves or some cut short is false, then immediately another plant can generate. That is asexual. The way of the next, the biggest kingdom is the topmost king. The biggest kingdom, not topmost, but both the animals and plants is both are the biggest kingdoms. Here it is all are animals are multicellular. These are have a nucleus and are lacking a cell wall, heterotrophs. These are all are heterotrophs majorly, but someone is in a what it is herbivores and carnivores, is heterotrophs, and reproduce sexual reproduction is capable to the movement to some point to another point, its growth, its reproduce, and all these are the special phenomena is possible takes place in this particular kingdom, the animal kingdom. Okay, this is the major and the brief classification. Seven levels and three domains and six kingdoms. The next is a genus and species is identified through, just like hibiscus, roja, sinensis. Yeah, here it is genus and species is signifies. Yeah, in that way, it's universal names. Universal name, whomever it is, scientist is its, they experimented into that one, that particular species of the plant or animal or other microorganism. Definitely the results can exhibit to the universal way. This can is published through, everyone can understand. That is the reason why the classification, the great scientist of Carl Linnaeus, the Linnaeus is identified. Yeah, the next is yeah, this is of our classification, the biological classification. Or the next one is cellular way. There is cells, cell divisions, cell conscience, the cell-based life, the cell-based life. Why it is a cell-based life? It is in a multicellular or unicellular the body of the living thing. Then it is divides. It is in the equal division or unequal division. This is nothing but of mitosis and meiosis from their embryonic conditions onwards. Yeah, the cell-based life. But first foremost, we learn about the cell and cell structure and cell constituents and their functions. Then only the cellular-based things, the cellular-based life. Why it is cellular-based life means cell through only the animals or creatures can develop their diseases or else their growth is depends. Okay, all of you listen carefully through this one. You understand these words, all are similarly with particular sounds, but here it is both unicellular and the multicellular one. Yeah, majority of the prokaryotics and eukaryotics. In both the cases, the common cell constituents and the major difference is in the nucleus. So what way? How it is monitored? The functionality of the cell is in the biggest animals too and the smallest the creatures too. How it is it's managed, you find out. Okay. See, all of you listen carefully. The sound is also each and every word. Other than that of the next slides is not yet understand. The cellular based life, how it is the significance of cellular based life? Because of its constituents and their individual the functions. Yeah, you listen. Cell structure.
Cells are the smallest living units of an organism. All cells have three things in common.
Why? Because the cell is the smallest living unit. Just like you know, the polymers, the major unit is its the primary unit is monomer is a primary unit. Just like as the cell is a major unit, is the smallest part of this is in a multicellular or unicellular one. But this the major role is it begins to this particular cell onwards. So the cellular, the way of life can listen carefully.
What type of cell they are. All cells have a cell membrane, which separates the inside of the cell from its environment. Cytoplasm, which is a jelly-like fluid, and DNA, which is the cell's genetic material. There are two broad categories of cells. The first category is eukaryotic cells. They have organelles, which include the nucleus and other special parts. Eukaryotic cells are more advanced, complex cells, such as those found in plants and animals. The second category is prokaryotic cells. They don't have a nucleus or membrane-enclosed organelles. They do have genetic material, but it's not contained within a nucleus. Prokaryotic cells are always one-celled or unicellular organisms, such as bacteria.
Yeah, you see.
So what are organelles? Organelle means little organ. Organelles are the specialized parts of a cell that have unique jobs to perform. Let's start with the nucleus, the control center of the cell. The nucleus contains DNA, or genetic material. DNA dictates what the cell is going to do and how it's going to do it. Chromatin is the tangled, spread out form of DNA found inside the nuclear membrane. When a cell is ready to divide, DNA condenses into structures known as chromosomes. The nucleus also contains a nucleolus, which is a structure where ribosomes are made. After ribosomes leave the nucleus, they will have the important job of synthesizing or making proteins. Outside the nucleus, the ribosomes and the rest of the organelles float around in cytoplasm, which is the jelly-like substance. Ribosomes may wander freely within the cytoplasm or attach to the endoplasmic reticulum, sometimes abbreviated as ER. There are two types of ER. Rough ER has ribosomes attached to it, and smooth ER doesn't have ribosomes attached to it. The endoplasmic reticulum is a membrane-enclosed passageway for transporting materials, such as the proteins synthesized by ribosomes. Proteins and other materials emerge from the endoplasmic reticulum in small vesicles, where the Golgi apparatus, sometimes called the Golgi body, receives them. As proteins move through the Golgi body, they're customized into forms that the cell can use. The Golgi body does this by folding the proteins into usable shapes, or adding other materials onto them, such as lipids or carbohydrates. Vacuoles are sac-like structures that store different materials. Here, in this plant cell, the central vacuole stores water. Going back to the animal cell, you will see an organelle called a lysosome. Lysosomes are the garbage collectors that take in damaged or worn-out cell parts. They are filled with enzymes that break down this cellular debris. The mitochondrion is an organelle that is the powerhouse for both animal and plant cells. During a process called cellular respiration, the mitochondria make ATP molecules that provide the energy for all of the cell's activities. Cells that need more energy have more mitochondria. Meanwhile, the cell maintains its shape through a cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton includes the thread-like microfilaments, which are made of protein, and microtubules, which are thin, hollow tubes. Some organisms, such as plants, that are photoautotrophic, meaning they capture sunlight for energy, have cells with an organelle called a chloroplast. The chloroplast is where photosynthesis happens. It's green because it has a green pigment called chlorophyll. Plant cells also have a cell wall outside of their cell membranes that shape, support, and protect the plant cell. Animal cells never have a cell wall. There are many other unique structures that only some cells have. Here are just a few. In humans, for example, the respiratory tract is lined with cells that have cilia. These are microscopic hair-like projections that can move in waves. This feature helps trap inhaled particles in the air and expels them when you cough. Another unique feature in some cells is flagella. Some bacteria have flagella. A flagellum is like a little tail that can help a cell move or propel itself. The only human cell that has a flagellum is a sperm cell. In summary, remember, eukaryotic cells are plant and animal cells with a nucleus and membrane-enclosed organelles, while prokaryotic cells are unicellular organisms without these things. All cells have a cell membrane, cytoplasm, and genetic material. And even though only plant cells have chloroplasts, both plant and animal cells have mitochondria.
Yeah, this is the features of each and every cell, either eubacteria, prokaryotics and eukaryotics, and all cells contain. Okay, think all of you listen carefully. Once again, listen carefully. The words is similarly. You catch to that one of each and every individual constant of the cell.
Cells are the smallest living units of an organism. All cells have three things in common, no matter what type of cell they are. All cells have a cell membrane, which separates the inside of the cell from its environment, cytoplasm, which is a jelly-like fluid, and DNA, which is the cell's genetic material. There are two broad categories of cells. The first category is eukaryotic cells. They have organelles, which include the nucleus and other special parts. Eukaryotic cells are more advanced, complex cells, such as those found in plants and animals. The second category is prokaryotic cells. They don't have a nucleus or membrane-enclosed organelles. They do have genetic material, but it's not contained within a nucleus. Prokaryotic cells are always one-celled or unicellular organisms, such as bacteria. So, what are organelles? Organelle means little organ. Organelles are the specialized parts of a cell that have unique jobs to perform. Let's start with the nucleus, the control center of the cell. The nucleus contains DNA, or genetic material. DNA dictates what the cell is going to do and how it's going to do it. Chromatin is the tangled, spread-out form of DNA found inside the nuclear membrane. When a cell is ready to divide, DNA condenses into structures known as chromosomes. The nucleus also contains a nucleolus, which is a structure where ribosomes are made. After ribosomes leave the nucleus, they will have the important job of synthesizing or making proteins. Outside the nucleus, the ribosomes and the rest of the organelles float around in cytoplasm, which is the jelly-like substance. Ribosomes may wander freely within the cytoplasm or attach to the endoplasmic reticulum, sometimes abbreviated as ER. There are two types of ER. Rough ER has ribosomes attached to it, and smooth ER doesn't have ribosomes attached to it. The endoplasmic reticulum is a membrane-enclosed passageway for transporting materials, such as the proteins synthesized by ribosomes. Proteins and other materials emerge from the endoplasmic reticulum in small vesicles, where the Golgi apparatus, sometimes called the Golgi body, receives them. As proteins move through the Golgi body, they're customized into forms that the cell can
The
use.
Golgi body is attached.
The Golgi body does this by folding the proteins into usable shapes
Carbohydrates,
or adding other materials onto them, such as lipids or carbohydrates. Vacuoles are sac-like structures that store different materials. Here, in this plant cell, the central vacuole stores water. Going back to the animal cell, you will see an organelle called a lysosome. Lysosomes are the garbage collectors that take in damaged or worn-out cell parts. They are filled with enzymes that break down this cellular debris. The mitochondrion is an organelle that is the powerhouse for both animal and plant cells. During a process called cellular respiration, the mitochondria make ATP molecules that provide the energy for all of the cell's activities. Cells that need more energy have more mitochondria. Meanwhile, the cell maintains its shape through a cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton includes the thread-like microfilaments, which are made of protein, and microtubules, which are thin, hollow tubes. Some organisms, such as plants, that are photoautotrophic, meaning they capture sunlight for energy, have cells with an organelle called a chloroplast. The chloroplast is where photosynthesis happens. It's green because it has a green pigment called chlorophyll. Plant cells also have a cell wall outside of their cell membranes that shape, support, and protect the plant cell. Animal cells never have a cell wall. There are many other unique structures that only some cells have. Here are just a few. In humans, for example, the respiratory tract is lined with cells that have cilia. These are microscopic hair-like projections that can move in waves. This feature helps trap inhaled particles in the air and expels them when you cough. Another unique feature in some cells is flagella. Some bacteria have flagella. A
human
flagellum
body
is like a
cilia,
little tail that
the
can help a
flagella.
cell move or propel
Here,
itself. The
human
only
sperm cell
human cell that has a flagellum
is moves
is a
through
sperm
flagella.
cell. In summary, remember, eukaryotic cells are plant and animal cells with a nucleus and membrane-enclosed organelles, while prokaryotic cells are unicellular organisms without these things. All cells have a cell membrane, cytoplasm, and genetic material. And even though only plant cells have chloroplasts, both plant and animal cells have mitochondria.
Okay. This is primary structure of the cell and cell constituents. Now you see this one. The cell, the basic unit of the cell, cellular life. The cellular life is in a unicellular or the multicellular. But the life begins from this particular unit, the basic unit for the life. Here we are identified this is total cell structure and with cell constituents, the bacteria, the plant cell, and prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, and this is blood cells, red blood cells. Yeah. The cell theory. All organisms is made up of a cell. The cellular theory. The cell is the basic unit of the life and all other living things, and all cells come from the existing cells. Yeah, definitely. It develops. It improves. One time the cell is divides. Okay, now two types of prokaryotics, eukaryotics. Size is in 0.1 to 10 microns in the size. Prokaryotics. So prokaryotic cells have flagella. It contains. Eukaryotics have no flagella, and at the same time it's 10 to 100 microns. The size cell is commonly contains of the DNA, but it's the nucleus is only the eukaryotics. The ribosomes itself, plasma membrane itself, Cytoplasm also contains. The nucleus is absent in prokaryotic cells. Yeah, here you see the organelles, the several chloroplasts, endoplasmic reticulum, the ribosomes, lysosomes, nucleus, nucleoli, lipids, Golgi bodies, everything we are identifying. Here it is. The vacuoles, these are all our comes under organelles. Here, the prokaryotic cell. The prokaryotic cell has no membrane, some pills. It contains flagella for motility point of view. It covers, it's no membrane, it covers the nucleus. It's a no membrane, it covers organelles also. Have a circular DNA. It's open DNA, the DNA containing of the chromosomes, of course. These are the bacteria comes on. It's a capsule, a capsule-like structure. At the cell wall, the plasma membrane, the ribosomes, cellular are open, and nucleoid is nothing but the DNA. This is the structure of the TEM. Our microscopes, the STEM, SEM, and TEM compound microscopes are identified. This bacteria structure through microscopic way, magnifying. And this next is eukaryotic cell. Have a nucleus, have a membrane covered with organelles, have inner the linear DNA contains the chromosomes or all other cell constituents also. The next, organelles are structured that enable the cell to live and growth to reproduce. Reproduction, the growth, and cell to living. For this organelles is its uses. Here, each and every organ. One is the first one is cell membrane. It acts as a gate-like outer layer of the cell. It allows them the nutrients into the cell and the waste outside of the cell. It segregates, it stops, it can allows, it can permits, or it can trust. The cell membrane, major function. Is it harmful to the cell or it's helpful to the cell? Accordingly, it can act. So it's a gate of the city. The gate of the city, like it can act on the cell, the membrane. And the next one is cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is a jelly-like fluid. All other constituencies takes place. This is also the magnifying microscope of TEM, tanning electron microscope, SEM and TEM through microorganisms. These all are not yet visible under the microscopic electronics microscopic. Only we can identify. The cytoplasm is a jelly fluid. It contains in the cell that is holds the whole organelles. Yeah, ribosomes, Golgi complexes, the lysosomes, vacuoles, the centrioles, the mitochondria. Yeah, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, rough endoplasmic reticulum, and macro and microtubules. Yeah, of course. And the nucleus. The nucleus containing of the DNA of the paired chromosomes. It's have nucleolus, the nucleus, the middle is a nucleolus. In our video, we are identifying the nucleolus, the nuclear the membrane. It can controls, it governs all the cell activities. It contains the cell DNA and chromosomes. Yeah, it's the mayor of the office, like that particular city. In that city, the mayor's office, like it governs the entire the cell and cell activities. Next is the mitochondria. It's the power center of the cell. The energy. Yeah, it provides the energy to the cell. It needs to move the divide and etc. Means here is name mitosis or meiosis, the divisions. This equal division or unequal division from embryo to formation of the zygote to embryo, the embryo to it's up to the adult animals. Up to this is a non-stop the functionality for all the division, but the energy is produced by the mitochondrial thing only. Other than that of its functionality is retards, deteriorates. The old age people, the mitochondrial functionality is slowed down. Yeah, it's just like it is an electric company of the cell, a powerhouse of the cell. It's called as powerhouse of the cell. Next is the ribosomes. The ribosomes is in a synthesize, already in the video we are identified, synthesize the proteins. Ribosomes is synthesize the proteins. The site where the proteins are made, it's synthesized. The cell parts of this made of the proteins. Wherever cuts and wounds or major operations, then the ribosomes is activate. It's heat ups to that one. Why? Because it generates the synthesize the proteins. These proteins is pass on and supplies that particular cut and wound or operating operations wherever it takes place of them, either in limbs or inside or where, whatever the place. So that is the reason why it's the factories of the cell. Yeah. Next is ER, endoplasmic reticulum. It can transport the system of the cell. Whatever the proteins or carbohydrates or some other things, it transports through ER, endoplasmic reticulum. The ribosomes is attached to this one. The rough endoplasmic reticulum is ribosomes is attached. Smooth endoplasmic reticulum is not at all. It's a roadway of the cell. It is called as the roadway of the cell. It can transport to this particular proteins and all these are. Why? Because the synthesized proteins of by the ribosomes it attaches to endoplasmic reticulum. Yeah, the next is Golgi complex, its packages. Whatever the synthesized protein, ribosome, it's prepares. That one is its the packs, safe packing. This Golgi complexes and packages the process and ships out of the stuff, the required place. It is transports through endoplasmic reticulum. This is the Golgi
Sir,
complex. Yeah,
sir,
I will stop. You have next hour?
yes, sir, we are lab.
Yeah. UPS of the cell. Like next is the lysosomes. It is digest the food. It's the waste or at the same time deviated bodies. It can stops to that one. It's garbage. The garbage substances all are is called as the garbage man. Like this is the function of the ribosome, lysosomes. It protects the cell by the digesting the foreign, yeah, it's harmful one. The foreign bodies or foreign ingredients may enter inside. It's just like it's a duty of the cop, like the policeman duty. Next is vacuole. Vacuole is the biggest place. It's in the plant cell. You find out the vacuole is fill up the largest, the water and the food stuff in a plant cell. It's an empty vacuole. The plant is deteriorate. Next is the cell wall containing of the this particular the green patch is chlorophyll. It protects the supports the cell. The photosynthesis takes place. It's found only the plant cells containing the chlorophyll. It makes the plants in a green way. The photosynthesis takes place in sunlight. It activates. Yeah, the plant and animal cells majorly. It's found in the plant cells is the chloroplasts and cell wall. But the rest of nucleus, Golgi complexes, mitochondria, lysosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, cell membrane, ribosomes, and vacuoles takes place in the cases, both plants and animals, the point of view. Yeah, this is the thing. Okay, you can attend, you leave the class. You have the next hour just begins, I think. Okay, you have for another 2 minutes only. Okay, you can quit. I stop at here.